G'day guys and gal. In Warhammer Fantasy, almost every race has a light and dark side. Some of these even literally just have the word dark at the start of their names to represent this, whilst the rest just change that word to chaos. Humans have chaos humans, elves have dark elves, and now the dwarves have Chaos Dwarves, who are what happens when you lace Dawi ale with speed. Even the races with no dark side still have an opposite. For the Lizardmen, it's the Demon or the Skaven. The unique thing about the Chaos Dawi or Dawi-Zharr, which means Fire Dwarves, as that sounds a lot cooler than Angry Dwarves or Coked Up Meth Addict Dwarves, is that dwarves are built to be anti-magic, which by extension makes them anti-chaos. Hence, despite thousands of years of prime examples of being bad guys, their mutations are really minor, and overall they just become massive dicks. Before we get started, a couple of you guys gave me the idea to get the Majorkill avatar modded into Total War Warhammer 2 using custom models, so I was like, hell yeah. I got in contact with Shaw Muscle and he agreed to do it, so double hell yeah. Now Shaw is a stand-up dude and he said he would do it for free, but there's no way I would let that happen. So what I'll do is next stream, which will be this Sunday evening, 4 PM Washington DC time or 9 PM UK time, half of all the donations from that stream will go to Shaw for his efforts. This is a great way to support the modding community at the same time also supporting me, so get down and help two brothers out. We will be playing Dawi-Zharr, so expect some fat zombie boy Waz. Today we will cover who the Chaos Dwarves are and where they come from. We'll also have a look at some of their notable characters as well what happens to them during the end times. In this video I'll also offer what should have happened to them during the end times, hence the Chaos Dwarves will not be getting their own fix in the end times video as there isn't enough content for them. Also the changes I make here are relatively minor. Let's get into it. In the early days of the world, the dwarves began to spread far and wide. Wherever there was gold and gems, there would be dwarves. Most of them settled along the world's edge mountains, creating massive holds and kingdoms throughout. Another faction of the Dawi travelled east and settled the plains of what is now known as the Darklands. These Dawi in the Darklands at the time were totally chill, and weren't into slavery and demons and shit yet, so all was well. Until the Fire Nation attacked, I mean Chaos attacked. The entire world was thrown into turmoil as each race fought apocalyptic wars for survival against the endless tide of demons. Each race had a trump card which allowed them to survive long enough for the elves to create the vortex and save everyone. The Lizardmen had Lord Croak, the elves had Anarion, and the dwarves had the ancestor gods, mainly Grimnir. Whilst Grimnir was a beast, he couldn't teleport and he had stumpy legs, hence he couldn't be everywhere at one time. As such, when Chaos came to the Darklands, the dwarves there did not have any protection from their gods and they weren't easily held up in defendable holds. They were basically given an option, either fight Chaos and likely be wiped out, or pledge their souls to Chaos God Hushut and be spared. They chose the latter. Now Dawi were built to be anti-magic, hence anti-warp and anti-chaos, so it was pretty jarring for them to now be infused with chaos magic. For the first time ever, dwarven sorcerers started emerging from the ranks of the Chaos Dwarves, whilst the entire race was slowly mutated. The mutations couldn't really get very far though, as mutating a dwarf is like spraying a chemical fire with a hose. You'll just waste a lot of water and not get the results you're looking for. Hence most of the Dawi-Zharr just ended up getting really evil looking beards or the occasional tusk or horn. Hushut was also free from the other great four Chaos Gods to do what he wanted with his Dawi, with 3 of the 4 Chaos Gods thinking it was a meme to mutate the tits out of their followers, metaphorically or literally if you followed Slaanesh. This meant that they weren't really too bothered by them. In saying that though, there was some bull centaurs who were super mutated Chaos Dwarves, basically a centaur but instead of half of it being human, it was a Chaos Dwarf. Kinda funny to picture it if I'm honest. There was however a pretty big consequence for forcing anti-magic people to be super magical. Over time, each Chaos Sorcerer would slowly turn to stone, before eventually dying. The Sorcerers also gained more mutations than the non-Sorcerer Chaos Dwarves, such as hooves or like 2 scrotums or whatever. If it wasn't already obvious, Hushut is a bull god, hence all the bullshit fluffing around with the mutations. Hushut twisted the Dawi's technological curiosity and supreme stubborn intelligence into cold calculating ruthlessness. No experiments were off limits and no tool was forbidden. They were really lacking a safety advisory council. By combining slavery, demon magic and dwarven technology, the Chaos Dwarves produced an industry hundreds of years beyond anything else in the rest of the world had, except for maybe the Skaven. The Chaos Dwarves live in the Darklands. The lands aren't called the Dark Lands to try and be edgy, it's a genuine dark shithole with not enough natural resources or food to support large populations. Also, the Chaos Dwarves models didn't sell that well, so yeah. As always, however, evil science could go wrong. The Chaos Dwarves long used orcs as slaves. Fair enough, you know, they are pretty strong. In an attempt to make them stronger and more disciplined, they genetically modified a new breed of orc, black orcs. Now it does seem a bit questionable and maybe a bit unnecessary that in order to create better slaves, the Chaos Dwarves had to make them black, but I suppose Warhammer Fantasy is a fantastical reflection of our own world, so it does make sense. Whichever way you look at it, it backfired massively. The Black Orcs were bigger, smarter and more disciplined, yes, which meant that they were great leaders when it came to instigating a massive rebellion which almost destroyed the Chaos Dwarf Empire. Whoops. The Chaos Dwarf Empire only survived due to the Hobgoblins betraying the Black Orcs at the last second, as they would rather work with Chaos Dwarves instead of being dominated by the Black Orcs. Even though they are also being dominated by the Chaos Dwarves, I guess they felt more secure working with midgets they were taller than, rather than massive big ass orc niggas. This Black Orc rebellion would also spell the beginning for Grimgor and his immortals, as they fled the Darklands and arrived at the Old World to begin his quest to ruin everyone's day. Despite the rebellion, the Chaos Dwarves didn't really learn much. They kept using Black Orc slaves, living by their motto, "If America can pull it off, so can we." Due to their resistance to chaos, their minds weren't so warped that they were unaware of their own reality, which is common for human followers of chaos. No, they are aware chaos is horrible and that their actions are inherently evil, so Hoshut didn't even try to convince them otherwise. Instead, he manipulated their stubbornness so that they blamed everything evil they did on the dwarves that had abandoned them during the Great Catastrophe. Even though they didn't actually get abandoned, everyone was dealing with their own shit. They often say bullshit like, our values would never have been compromised if the Dawi didn't betray us, or we wouldn't have done this if it wasn't the only way to survive. Hence making them a bunch of salty little sausages who try to justify their evil actions by blaming it on others. If anything, their self-awareness towards their own darkness makes them way more evil than anyone else. It's the nature of the Skaven, Beastmen and Demons to be bad, as they are literally created that way, just like how it's the Lizardsman nature to hate chaos. Even mankind gets their reality twisted so that they think chaos is good. Dawi resistance has meant that they can see chaos for what it is, and the fact that they still chose to embrace it reflects pretty poorly on their morality. The Chaos Dwarves didn't sell that well, hence they haven't really had an army or proper armies rule since the 5th edition. In case any of you were wondering, 5th edition started before I was born, so needless to say they haven't really had the spotlight on them for a while, but that is okay. Now let's take a look at some of the Chaos Dwarves characters. Do note that all these characters were created during a time where good guys and bad guys were black and white, hence like most villains in Warhammer Fantasy, all these guys are like comic book evil. What I'm trying to say is that not only do they lack height, but they also lack depth. Firstly, we have Astra Goth Ironhand, oldest of the Chaos Dwarf sorcerers and the living embodiment of why using magic as a dwarf sucks. Once incredibly revered as the most powerful around, this dude has since amputated both his legs and hands due to him turning to stone. He replaced them with a prosthetic mech, which while it started off cool, it's now getting a little bit sad. Groth the Cruel is to be Astrogath's successor, as he is the second most powerful Chaos Dwarves sorcerer. Well, he's probably the most powerful considering Astrogath is on disability benefits, but yeah. His armies are led by the legendary Zartan the Black, who is the most successful Chaos Dwarves commander. Zartan the Black is a melee hero type of the Chaos Dwarves. He's the Grimgor Tyrion Valton of the Chaos Dwarves, which unfortunately means that he isn't worth shit, as being a part of the Chaos Dwarves, an army that hasn't had any love for over 20 years, means you are primed to get your ass kicked at any moment by someone that does have the love. Jazaroth the Ashen One was a potent demon smith, a legendary sorcerer and warrior who was exiled due to some political bullshit to the Black Fortress. He soon rose to the top there and now commands its fierce armies. The issue is that the Black Fortress is pretty far away from anything cool, so being the leader of it is like being the leader of Israel. You're surrounded by enemies and even your own allies don't like you very much. Finally we have Rakath the Unbreakable, a shining example of the courage of the Dawi race. Always preferring to fight at the front, this tough lad never lost a single fight or battle. When Archaon met with the Chaos Dwarves in order to commission hell cannons for his army, Rakath stared the Everchosen down. I think this is supposed to make him sound badass or something, I'm not sure. Now we know who the Dawi-Zharr are, where they come from and who their main characters are, what did they get up to during the end times? Well, in short, they got raped, really hard, by Grimgor and his massive Black Orc schlong. The end. In Long, when the end times kick off, they attack the Great Bastion of Cathay, and they break through it. They begin raiding Cathay and taking slaves. Grimgor shows up and has an especially large bone to pick with the Chaos Dwarves, especially since, they enslaved him in the past. He crushes the Chaos Dwarves within the Great Bastion and then invades the Darklands themselves. The Orc slaves hear of Grimgor's coming, so they instigate another massive rebellion, because as I said, the Chaos Dwarves didn't learn the first time. In between the uprisings, the arrival of Grimgor and his fuck-off massive Wah! Consisting of Black Orcs, Ogres and Hobgoblins, the Chaos Dwarves are crushed, and Hashut is personally killed by Gork and Mork. I mean, this is what is to be expected. They were not a main faction, and Grimgor was more or less the end times protagonist. In terms of what happens to their characters, Astrogoth, that disabled bitch, gets betrayed by Gorth, who sabotages his mech and causes him to turn to stone. Gorth is in turn killed by Borg Facebeater. Drazarath the Ashen One gets crumped by Grimgor along with Rakath the Unbreakable. The legendary Zartan the Black gets gutted by none other than Brag the Gutsman. So yeah, while they did put up a good fight, they all died pretty violently and unceremoniously, with Rakath the only one who gave Grimgor a challenge. The only thing I would change for the Chaos Dwarves in the end times is to have their character arc come full circle, in a really grimdark way. The Chaos Dwarves always said that the reason why they were evil is because of the ancestor gods abandoning them in their time of need. Hence this is what I would do. The Chaos Dwarf Empire is crumbling. Many of the Chaos Dwarves heroes are dead, with only Zartan the Black remaining. After fighting for a number of hours, he sees the situation as hopeless, and he rallies a few hundred Chaos Dwarves to him, mainly beardlings and women, and leads them to the depths of his tower. They enter a room which hosts a Chaos Portal. Entering the portal would mean giving themselves over to chaos entirely, and being warped into horrific abominations, but they would technically survive, while staying would mean facing the merciless wrath of the Greenskins. Bit of a lose-lose. As the Chaos Dwarves are considering what to do, the portal shimmers and none other than Grimnir walks out of it. Grimnir had been fighting in the realms of chaos for hundreds of years, so it was plausible that he would sense his old kin's plight and come to them. The Chaos Dwarves would be stunned as the Greenskins begin to bash on the door to the tower. Zartan would compose himself and yell, "Why now? After thousands of years of corruption and decadence, why do you come to us now? To gloat? To watch us burn? To laugh? To mock us?" "No," Grimnir would say, "I am here to save you. I was not able to do that in the times past, and for that I am sorry. You do not deserve the darkness which now taints your souls and twists your body." "Save us!" Zartan exclaims. "You would lend your axe to ours against the Greenskins?" Grimnir would look at the host before him sadly. The beardlings, who were already showing signs of corruption, would look at him in awe and terror. "No," Grimnir would say with regret in his voice. "Your bodies and minds are beyond saving. Your souls are not." With that, Grimnir would lift his legendary axe. "I'm sorry." Zartan would understand then. Grimnir could not save them from either the Greenskins or Chaos. He could, however, save their souls. The purifying light could burn out the taint from them and allow them to rejoin their ancestors in the halls of their gods. As Zartan felt hope for the first time in his life, he suddenly felt Hashut's rage upon him. His body twisted further as the bull god itself inhabited his body, burning out his will and filling it with rage. Zartan was now avatar of Hashut. In a bull rage he would charge at Grimnir, and the two gods would lock in combat, strikes swinging so fast it was a blur, until with a single stroke, Grimnir slices his divine axe across the chest of Zartan, Hashut howling in agony. His pain was an invitation to Gork and Mork, who would then invade the mind of Zartan. Chaos Dwarves' eyes would glow green as Gork and Mork mocked with and then destroyed Hashut. They then left Zartan's body. Zartan would lie on the ground, looking at Grimgor with his face twisted in agony. "Save us," he would say. A blinding light would shine from Grimnir, instantly incinerating all the Chaos Dwarves in the room painlessly, burning the chaos from their souls and allowing them to return home. By the time the Greenskins bashed down the door of the tower and entered the room, the Chaos Portal was gone, with no trace of Grimnir or any of the previously known Dawi-Zharr. I think my ending to them goes deeper into the fact that they never wanted to be servants of chaos, and also explains what Grimnir was doing for the first part of the end times. Considering he shows up later, it allows him to have an earlier feature. Let me know what you guys think of that ending. I think it captures that bittersweet feeling that their salvation was found in death. The ancestor gods, in the end, did save them, just not in the way they were expecting. And that does us for today, guys. The lore, end times, and my own version of the Chaos Dwarves. Remember about that stream in 7 or 8 hours, guys. It'll be a lot of fun, and once again, a great way to support Shaw Muscle and his insane modding work. Look at these models, man. Fuck me. If you guys like this video and want to support the channel, then Patreon is the place to be. Only $1 gives you access to a boatload of custom Warhammer hentai, so hell yeah. Join the Discord for more memes, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.